Happy New Year, my friend. In the last episode, we reflected on how to close a year well. And if you haven't listened to that one yet, I'd encourage you to go back and start there. I shared my 4-part process that I move through as I transition from one year to the next. In that episode, I talked about the first 3, remembering, receiving, and releasing. And today, I'm excited to share the 4th part, reorienting, and how I turn toward a new year with intention, gentleness, and clarity. So I'm going to be sharing all of that, including some really practical things that I do. I'm so excited to share this part 2 with you. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Power to Flourish podcast, where science meets the art of a beautiful life. I'm Dr. Andrea Line, positive psychologist, giftedness expert and coach, and modern-day spiritual godmother to brilliant, deep-feeling women. This isn't just another self-help podcast. It's a sanctuary, a sacred space to come back to yourself. Each week, we'll explore the emotional experience of gifted, sensitive women and what it means to live a life that feels as beautiful as it may look. Because flourishing isn't a luxury, it's your birthright, and your life is waiting. This is the Power to Flourish podcast. And then the 4th part of my process is reorienting. I love this part. And I also think it's really important that you don't rush this part. So I do not demand clarity for myself by, December 31st or even January 1st. Sometimes it's late January. Sometimes it's February. Sometimes, I don't know, it's March. I mean, it's okay. It's a process, but I simply ask myself, what season am I actually in and what am I being invited toward? And sometimes the answers to these questions come relatively quickly, and I know sometimes it unfolds a little more slowly. I think it matters how much space I'm giving myself. It matters how busy my life is. It matters how much time I'm devoting to actually listening, right? To myself, to God, to just notice what's coming up. So it's all okay. There's no, again, you don't want to rush this, but it's intentional. So I personally do not sit down and journal these things out, just to be clear. I'm not like actually writing like what season am I actually in and then writing about it, but that might be helpful for you. For me, this is more of just like almost an ongoing conversation or inner inquiry that I'm having with myself, or like it's a conversation between my body and my mind and my spirit and God. And like, I don't know how to describe it, but it's just this whole process of reorienting. And sometimes, like, for example, I'm trying to listen really clearly to my body. And I'm sure there's a time where you can feel the energy in your body is like, it feels like it's bursting forth, right? There's something, you're like excited about it. You are ready to go. And you feel like you're like, it's go time. This is a season to like press on the pedal and let's go. And let's actually accelerate, right? There's like a season for that. And sometimes my body is saying, it's a time to pull back. It's a time to clear your calendar. That's definitely what happened to me last January. It was like, oh, we're shifting gears now. Like all of these things that you were involved in, all of these things that you're doing, all these people that you're seeing, all the conversations you're having, like you're going to have to scale that way back. And I was like, really? Okay. And so, because I'm listening, I'm like, what am I being called to right now in this season? And again, it's not like, what am I being called for? And it's going to be the same way throughout the entire year. But as I'm entering into the year in this particular season, what am I being called into? So just remember, everyone is in a different season. And that's just normal. There's nothing wrong with it. And even though the calendar might say it's New Year and everyone has like the New Year energy and they're like goal setting and go, 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 your soul may still be like, I'm in a pensive fall, early winter season, and I am just letting my roots, like deepen and it's quiet and my energy is one of I want to go inward. Like there's nothing wrong with any of it. It's just hearing and knowing what is your body, what is your spirit speaking, what like being aligned and attuned. Attuned is probably the best way to put it. And it's totally fine if someone else is entering the year and they're in that full bloom energy and they are like ready to hit it. Nothing wrong with that either. It's all beautiful. It's all good. Everyone is different. So we're not in the same season at the same time. Do not look around as you're reflecting on your season and be like, well, my friend so-and-so is in this season. Like I want to be like her. I wish this. I mean, we can do that, but I wouldn't recommend. It's not very helpful. So it's a gift. We're all in different places. And one other thing that I should just add, I almost didn't share this because it's something actually, I just did it this year and it's so new. And I realize as I say it out loud, some of you may think that is the coolest thing in the world. And some of you are going to hear me and go, okay, that's really, really woo woo. And I don't know. So I'm going to share it. I'm going to at least share the basic idea. So this might resonate with some of you, particularly if you love more contemplative or what I might call like prophetic practices, that hearing, like I'm really into the hearing. So a friend had mentioned it to me or something, kind of this version. I think kind of took it and made my own like simple version of it. I'm not claiming this idea did not come from me is my point. So at the very beginning of this year, I just got quiet. It was not difficult. I literally just carved out a little space and I took a like a paper calendar. You don't have to do this. I just decided to do it this way. I had gotten this really beautiful calendar from the Biltmore estate in Asheville, where we had gone for like a pretty little Christmas thing. So I had this beautiful little calendar of the Biltmore and I flipped it open to January and I just sat and I listened and I wrote down any word or image that that came up for me. Again, this is sort of like a prophetic practice. So I was like kind of prayerful state. And for every month of the year, I would just sit and I would just notice what would come up and I would write it down on the actual paper of the calendar. Obviously, you can do this anyway. There's nothing elaborate, nothing forced. Like I just would write down what I would see. I often see things or maybe I'll see a word. Whatever I feel like God is highlighting, I'm writing it down. Now, there were plenty of things. If I pulled out that calendar right now and told you the things that I wrote down, they did not make any sense. I mean, they were like random things. And I remember writing them down and going, okay, this is weird. Like this is going to be an interesting year because I don't know what this is going to mean. And honestly, I went through the whole year. I went through all 12 months and I just forgot about it. I mean, like I didn't forget that I did it, but I wrote it down in that little calendar and then I put the calendar aside in my office and I went on with my life. I wrote it down. I moved on. But what was so amazing was as the months unfolded, especially this year, there were so many things that happened and so many unknowns for our family. My husband was like applying for jobs for the first time in 20 years. We didn't know where that process was going to go. We didn't know if we were going to have to move. Then my grandmother died. My granddaughter was born. I mean, et cetera, et cetera. So many things. And I remember very specifically, I think it was May. I was on a very particular beach. My husband was there with us at the birth of our granddaughter, and we were having some family time. We went to this beach that actually we had never been to before. And I looked across the way and there were these big are they windmills? I don't think they're called windmills, but you know what I'm talking about, the electricity wind things. This is sort of like on the North Shore of Oahu. We had just had a really special ceremony on the beach, like a little surprise ceremony as a family between my husband and my daughter, which was really, really special. So it was a special moment. And I look across the water because it was sort of like a little inlet there. And I look across the water and I see they're like windmills. And all of a sudden, in a moment, I remember, oh my goodness, that's what I saw. That was a picture. And I wrote it down. And I think I wrote pinwheel is what I wrote because that's sort of what I saw in the image. And I couldn't remember, I remembered seeing a pinwheel, and I thought to myself, what month did I write that? Like, when did I write that down? And wouldn't you know, I looked back of all the months of the year, it was the month of May. And that we had just stepped into the month of May, and that was the picture. And anyway, that's one example, but there were so many things like that as the year went by. And they weren't like necessarily, all dramatic or anything, but it was just, I don't know how I would describe it. It was like this gentle confirmation of, oh, like as the months went by, it's like, oh, God was preparing me for this. Like I wrote this thing down. I didn't know what it meant. And I did spend some time later of like praying and thinking, okay, well, what's the interpretation of this? Because like when you see a pinwheel, I didn't write anything down for that. I was like, I do not know what pinwheel. I don't know what that means, but I wrote it down. So that was very interesting. I won't go into all the details of all of that, but I realize everyone's rhythms and their spiritual practices are very different. And I certainly never want to impose mine on anyone else, but I will just say it helped me enter each month with a little bit more like expectancy, especially as the year went on and I kept remembering, I'm like, oh, I need to go back and look at that. So it was just interesting. I also wanted to see like maybe some of them were like way off. I don't know. So my husband, I think he actually got even really interested as the year went by. He was like, what did you write down for September? What did you write down for October? So I'm definitely going to continue this for 2026. It's not like a formula or anything like that. It's just, I think, just another way and rhythm for us to listen. And the way I would put it, I guess, is like praying into the coming year and tapping into something that our minds, it's not coming from our minds is, I guess, the best way to put it. Which leads me to just the spiritual and contemplative rhythms in general that I practice in my life. I'm not going to go into all of them again, but people often ask me or want to know, like, how do you hear God's voice, or how do you know if that's of interest to you? I mean, for some of you that's not of interest, and that's fine. But for me, even though I just described to you this, this actual method I tried, it's really not about any methods. It's just more about your posture, and it's just more about like your wanting and your openness to hear. So sometimes for me, that looks like as simply as just like sitting in my little chair in my one little room by the window and sitting in silence, my little morning chair. Sometimes I just like to stay in bed for a few extra moments, and sometimes I'll sit in silence, or sometimes I'll have my journal open if I feel led to do that. Sometimes I'm listening just like on a quiet walk, and I'm deliberately not listening to a podcast, which is hard for me because I love listening to podcasts while I'm on a walk. But sometimes it's during, something like that. Sometimes it's when I'm singing or whatever. Like there's so many ways I just integrate it into my life. I'm not trying to be like super spiritual or anything. I'm just living my life like in connection, or trying to be, in connection on a daily basis, not like, oh, I go to church on Sundays and therefore when I'm in church, I am then, being spiritual. Like that is just not the way I live my life. There were plenty of years where I was not going to church and, I was still very connected. And I would say sometimes like even more connected and attuned because it was just really like relational. But I guess what I would say most is that for me, I feel like God speaks most clearly, or actually how I should rephrase that is I hear most clearly, because I think God is speaking a lot of the time and we just don't hear necessarily, when I'm not striving and when I'm not too busy and when I can get myself settled and quiet and attuned. And like I said earlier, I'm also listening through my actual body, like through what feels expansive in my body, through what feels like a contraction, what feels like peace. Not that it's all about the feeling, but I do think that we sense things, maybe some of us more than others, through what our bodies are telling us. So not to ignore those things. So the point is listening is just, again, it's a rhythm, it's relational, it's dynamic. It's not like a specific moment. It's a lot of little moments, like it's a lot of little dots connected in time. So that's how I think of it. Okay, next, beauty. Now, you probably are like, oh, this is interesting. I'm going to talk about beauty for a second. As part of my process, as part of the as part of the ritual. So beauty is just, it's not optional for me. Now, I know I'm not like everyone else. But I'm sharing what my process is. So beauty for me, it's one of my primary languages for grounding myself. It's like almost, not to be too dramatic, but it's like, I feel like it's how I breathe. I feel like my sister is very similar in this way. I think my daughter is also very visual. Like we're just uh we are geared this way in a strong way. I think we're all geared for beauty. I think all humans are wired for beauty for sure. And some of us like prioritize it more than others. So at the end of the year, I lean into beauty. And right now I'm talking more aesthetically, but I talk about beauty in a broader sense. But for right now, I'm just talking really like, I guess, in a more superficial sense. But I do things like I go through my wardrobe. Now, this is not exciting, but I go through my wardrobe. I let go of things that no longer fit me, that don't make me feel beautiful, or maybe my tastes have just changed, right? I'm just like, I told you my identity shifted a lot this year. So many things. Like I stepped out of old identities and then I'm stepping into a new identity as a grandmother. And what does that mean? You know, not that I need to get a whole new wardrobe because I'm a grandmother, but I don't know. Like, what does a great, what does this look like at this season of my life? My body has also changed a lot, like from when I was in my 30s and through the surgery and hormone stuff and just lots of things. And I am learning to just honor that. Like, this is where I'm at. I'm getting close to 50. I feel strong. I work out all the time, but my body is not the same as it was when I was 35. Certainly not the same as when I was 25. So I want to dress like for who I am now, not who I was 10 years ago, not even 5 years ago. I do things like refreshing my bedroom. These are things that aren't just end of the year things, but it's like, it's part of that holiday and New Year energy of like going through my home and feeling. It's different than the spring cleaning. It's just like it's like a refreshing, right? Like I switch out the duvets, I change sheets. I'm just making it beautiful for the season we're in. I will definitely go through my office, and right now, even looking here at my desk, it's not beautiful. Let me just tell you, it is not beautiful. There are papers everywhere and notes, and I need to like take some time and organize and clear all this up. I do a massive digital clearing. This I usually do at the end of the year, usually because it's like in between Christmas and New Year's, there's, just like a little more downtime, or you're kind of hanging out, or you're, watching a movie with the family, or whatever. And I will just have my phone out and I'm going through like old photos, organizing things that I should do all through the year. And I just am not very good about it. Old files, like business things. I'm just like getting my Google Drive in order. And now, honestly, a whole separate side note, but I'm creating all these like AI automations in my business and then just like nerding out about it. So like getting everything in order, to me, that's beautiful. It's like, it's beautiful. Like I know it's all ordered. Feels good. Just things like that. Like there could be lots of examples in the home, in your wardrobe, in your workspace, whatever, right? It's just how you can use beauty to ground you. And little things like I might, buy a new candle and allow myself to savor a new different scent. Or another huge thing I love doing is buying a brand new journal to start the year off fresh. I always get the same kind. Like I have a certain brand that I really like. It's very basic, nothing crazy, but I use the Fringe journals, and I just always love them because they're spiral bound and they have simple, beautiful covers, and I just love them. They're my favorite. You can order them online, but I usually find them at Home Goods or places like that. Like you can get them all sorts of places, and they're not super expensive. So they're great. And then on the first date and on the first page, I usually date it. I'll write on the inside cover, like whatever the word I feel like God gives me for the upcoming year, whatever that theme is, I write it there. So I can always reference it easily when I'm looking back at my journals. And then when I start that new journal, I usually am writing like these reflections, these things that I've already talked about, but I'm writing what I've learned in the year that's just passed. And then I'm setting intentions, not crazy things, not even, I wouldn't call them resolutions necessarily, but just intentions for the different areas of my life. So like spiritual, emotional, relational, physical, intellectual, financial, creative, like everything. I just write it all out. I just brain dump. I just get everything out. But that ritual is so grounding. And by the way, I also like to then, in that remembering piece, I go back to the journal that I started, for the previous year. And I look at what I wrote at this part where I set the intentions, and I look and I reflect and I say, so how did I do with these? And like, how do I feel about him? Like, are they things that I still want to continue? Are there things that are like totally, oh, check, like, I've got that down. I don't need to include it, or I'm totally in a new place and it's something, usually they're not that different, to be honest, but they're just these intentions and like little nudges along the way. So, and then lastly, what I do, which sounds definitely like a chore, but it is incredibly freeing. I review all of my subscriptions, like everything, the personal, business, software, Apple, like everything. I just do all the financial and digital clearing. I go through all like the credit card subscriptions and if there are any Apple subscriptions hiding in there and like all my business tools and apps that I'm using or not using and memberships, like just there's lots of things that I know there's tools out there too that can help you keep track of this, but I usually just go through it myself. It's not like I have that many. And I just ask myself, like, am I using this anymore? Do I need this? I cancel or I pause if I, don't really need it right now. What am I still subscribed to that I no longer want in my life? And you can ask that question for not just the digital subscriptions in your life, but other things. What am I still subscribed to that I no longer want in my life? And just think, unsubscribe. Just unsubscribe. It sounds unglamorous, I know, but for me, it feels so good to start the new year with like that clearing out energy. It's like, woo. And I feel like it's just symbolic of reclaiming my own energy and sovereignty in my own life of like, it's a new time. It's a new season. We are moving on. I'm going to talk briefly about this last part of my process, really. And this is preparing for the January entry. And when January comes, I personally, this is just me, I do not sprint. There are times in our life when we definitely need or it would benefit us to sprint. But with January, at least for the very beginning of January, I do not pressure myself to reinvent my life in 1 week. In fact, I'm not even trying to reinvent my life. For me, December into January, whether it's the whole month of January, whether it's 2 weeks of January, whatever it is, January for me is a month of listening, recalibrating, asking those questions, like I said, right? What season am I in? What matters most for like the next 90 days or the next 6 months or whatever you want to ask? What is being highlighted for me? Where is my energy pointing? My husband and I, we have these, like I like to call them our vision conversations. He has to put up with me because I like talking about this stuff a lot. But, we're just talking about what, like I'm doing all this individually, but then I go to him and we're looking together with the practical realities in our life. What are the financial goals or the financial realities? What are our family priorities? What are travel hopes and dreams and things that we want to do in the new year or obligations that we have, the responsibilities, like all of those things we are carving out time, ideally, to dream into, pray into, talk about. And for us, and I will just say specifically, definitely for me, for 2026, one of probably the highest priorities, I would call it my top priority, is family related. And that for us now as grandparents, it's finding a way. What is the creative strategy for being closer to our daughter and granddaughter? who live 5,000 miles away, and aligning our life with that North Star is sort of where we're at. And I don't have any answers for that. And we don't have, any actual plans, but I'm just saying that's part of our process. And that's part of, as I'm going into January, this is what we'll get more and more clear on for us. And as a side note, this is definitely just a practical thing, but I love what I've been using for years and years and years. It's called the Full Focus Planner. And I use that integrated along with using a digital calendar and all of that stuff. But the Full Focus Planner is a print planner. I'll try to remember to put a link in the show notes. But if you are a planner like me and if you like paper like me, it's an excellent system. I love it so much. I won't go on and on about it, but it's really helped me get really crystal clear on like what my most important goals are for the year, and then breaking those up into quarterly and then of course monthly and weekly steps of that. So it's really great. It's really effective. I love it. So I do that. I use that in addition with my planner, in addition with my digital calendar to do all the things. So that, my friends, is my process. Now, I've shared my rhythms. I want to give you just a summary and a simple, beautiful framework that you can use yourself if you choose, if you want help and you just need a little structure. You could do this in a single afternoon, but honestly, I say spread it out. Spread it out across a few days or weeks, truly, because it's a process and it's not something you have to like just do step by step by step. That doesn't sound very fun or energizing to me. So just think of this as an invitation. It's an invitation. It's certainly not a prescription. Take what feels good to you, leave the rest. So to review, step one, you're going to set up your atmosphere. You're just going to, before we start anything, create a little beauty that helps your nervous system settle a little bit, whether that's lighting a candle, clearing off a space so it just doesn't look cluttered, putting on some soft music, getting your journal, whatever it is, atmosphere, beauty, not extra. Think of it as this is a doorway. This is your like entry in. Step two is remember your year. So 3 gentle prompts you can use. Number 1, what happened? Number 2, what mattered? And number 3, where did I see grace? You can look at your photos. You can look at old journal entries, talk to someone who walked out certain seasons of the year with you, whatever you have to do to reflect and remember, but that's what you're going to do in step 2. Step 3, receive what the year gave you. You can journal or reflect on questions like, what was revealed to me? What softened me? What strengthened me? What surprised me? Or what invitations or patterns repeated, and use that as that healthy confrontation to yourself for where things need to really shift, and let that insight just emerge without you feeling like you got to force it or do anything with it. Just let it be. Just get it out. And then the 4th step is release what doesn't belong in the new year. So for us, as I write this, what does not need to be carried into 2026? Examples, expectations, old roles, timelines, disappointments, over responsibility, obligations that drain you and that you do not need to keep, subscriptions, literal and emotional. Do that financial, digital, emotional clearing and cancel what is no longer aligned. And step 5, reorient towards what's next. So you can ask yourself, what season am I in? What is my body saying? What is God highlighting? What matters most for the next 30, 90 days, 6 months, whatever you choose? What is my North Star this year? Maybe you think, what is my word or my theme for the year? Write what makes sense to you without needing it to be perfect. And then if you want, last step, beautify your beginning. Just choose one simple little act of beauty to welcome in the new year. Maybe it's a new journal. Maybe you refresh a little corner of your home. Maybe you clear your desk so it feels really good when you step into the new year. Maybe you choose one wardrobe piece that feels like your next era you. Whatever it is, let beauty be. be the beginning. Oh, I know this was a lot. I told you you need a notebook and you need a cup of coffee. So I hope that was insightful for you. I hope you got some good ideas. I love sharing these things with you. It's just the normal rhythms I've lived out in my own life for so many years. I just take it for granted. I do all these things. Some of you already have your rhythms that you do, but if any of this resonated, I would love to hear what did. So you can DM me on Instagram, Dr. Andrea Line. You can also hit the link in the show notes and you can actually send me a text, which is so cool. Or, you can pop over and just send me an old school email. Hey, do you want to send me a handwritten letter in the mail? Just kidding. But really, any way that you want to give me feedback on any of the episodes, but particularly this one, I would love to know, what are you going to do going into 2026 that feels different in your process and your rhythm of entering the new year? I really would love to know. As you prepare to cross the threshold into January 2026, may you give yourself the gift of gentleness, the gift of truth, the gift of beauty, and the gift of listening. And until next time, keep flourishing. Thank you for listening to the Power to Flourish podcast. I hope today's conversation left you feeling more seen, more supported, and more deeply connected to yourself. And if this episode resonated, would you take a moment to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend? It's one of the best ways to help this work reach the women who need it most. You'll find show notes, links, and resources from today's episode at powertoflourish.com. And now just a quick reminder, this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only. It's not therapy, medical advice, or a substitute for professional support. And listening doesn't make me your therapist or doctor, though if you're looking for a coach, you know where to find me. All right, beautiful one, that's it for now. Until next time, trust yourself, honor your gifts, and keep flourishing.